Good afternoon, everyone. Go ahead and text your friends, your new colleagues, tell them to come on in. We get started. Thank you all so much for being here. It is indeed an honor and a pleasure to be here before you. My name is Dr. Bambi Hayes Brown, and I am the newly elected chair of the National Low-Income Housing Coalition. Shout out to Dora Gallo, who is our outgoing chair, for a great job well done. And on behalf of the coalition, the board and the staff, I want to thank each and every one of you for attending our 2025 Policy Forum. Hasn't this been a restorative, informative, and inspiring last few days? So time is flying when we're having fun. So we've heard from our interim president and CEO, Renee Willis, about ways that we're positioned to oppose harmful threats to vital housing and homelessness programs and funding. We've heard from Nicole Hannah-Jones. Wasn't she awesome? She was absolutely awesome about addressing racial injustice and the path forward to racial and housing justice. And we were joined by Senator Elizabeth Warren, Senator Mike Rounds, and shortly we'll hear from Senator Lisa Blunt, Rochester, and then we'll hear remarks from Pramila Jayapal and from Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal and Congressman Emmanuel Cleaver. And I actually met Congressman Emmanuel Cleaver on the first time that I came to the Policy Forum. So I'm aging myself now. Both who will share the work needed to advance transformative legislation to address those housing crises and those who are impacted with the lowest of incomes. We've participated in energetic breakout sessions on everything from disaster recovery, housing accessibility, and coalition building, and Native communities and rural communities, those that know me, rural communities, they're near and dear to my heart, and protections against the criminalization of homelessness. We're seeing a lot of that. We kind of quailed a lot of that in the past, but we do, as my policy and program analyst at Georgia Act saying, yes, Bambi said it was going to come back up again, and it did. But we've also talked about the push to enact tenant protections and the power of storytelling and advocacy and so much more. So now, what do we do now? So you don't want to just come to a conference, get all this information. What are we going to do? So first and foremost, we want to encourage you to attend Capitol Hill Day on tomorrow. Yeah, so even if you're not registered for Capitol Hill Day and you're going to be here in the area, Capitol Hill is the people's house. So you don't need a ticket or an invitation to go. So just go. And while you're there, we want to urge the members of Congress to protect and defend HUD programs and staff and millions of people nationwide who rely on them, like myself being a two-time former public housing resident. We also want you to, I hate to even call his name, I call him 4547, but the Trump administration and DOJ are doing everything that they can to decimate HUD, its staff, and any federal housing programs and homelessness investments. So we ask you to urge your members of Congress to support the highest level of funding possible for affordable housing and homelessness programs for this upcoming year. And not just Democrats. Go and talk to the Republicans. Because as people who know me, I'll talk to Republican, Democrat, Libertarian, Independent, it doesn't matter. Because we need all of them. All people are hurting. These budget cuts ahead are going to be incredibly challenging, and we must remain steadfast in the fight to end this housing crisis. So help us educate your senators and representatives on real solutions for our housing crisis and ensure that they are prepared to use their platform to oppose harmful policies that we see in the administration, those that are targeting immigrant households, which, as if I used to work for a housing authority, and we used to call those mixed households if there was residents and non-residents, but we've never provided benefits for non-residents. The benefits was always prorated. So don't believe all these talking points that you hear. And also to transgender people. I have 2 nephews that are transgender, and they are really, really catching it right now. So let's always remember our LGBTQIA siblings in this fight. And also, they're trying to undermine our housing rights as well as our civil rights. And they want to divert funding away from proven homelessness solutions like Housing First through work requirements and time limits. But let me tell you, the majority of people who are receiving assistance, whether it's Section 8, for the Housing Choice Voucher Program, but people still call it Section 8, public housing, SNAP, Medicaid, guess what? They're working. All of them are working. But with the gap between rising rents, rising home ownership costs, and wages, people still need that help. They still need that assistance. So please do not buy into that narrative that people who are receiving assistance are not working or contributing to society. Because guess what? They are, we are. Because both times I lived in public housing, I worked and I went to school. At the same time, we want them to encourage bipartisan bills such as the Eviction Crisis Act, which would create a permanent program to provide rental assistance to stabilize families before they face eviction and homelessness, and the Family Stability and Opportunity Vouchers Act, which would help over 250,000 families with young children to move in neighborhoods of their choice. You can always also encourage members of Congress to co-sponsor major legislation to help end America's housing crisis. To help end America's housing crisis, such as the Ending Homelessness Act, which would create universal rental assistance for everyone that needs it, the Housing Response Crisis Act that would make historic investments into rental assistance, public housing, and into the National Trust Fund to help build and develop more affordable housing. So we are at a critical moment in history. We're facing new, unprecedented threats. Well, it's really not new, because those of us who got these gray hairs have been here before. So we got to lean into the things and the strategies that we've employed before and do that now. Because we're not going backwards. We're going forward. But they're still trying to make it harder to solve the nation's housing crisis. And I always say this country can do whatever we want to do. I've seen us do it. So we can end this housing crisis if we want to. So it's time for us to dig deep, build new allies, because housing intersects with everything. Healthcare, education, jobs, economic development, all of those things. Strengthen those relationships. Mobilize tenant leaders, because our voice will no longer be silenced. And do what's right for the communities in which we live. Together, we are powerful, and we can make our voices heard in Congress. Thank you to each and every one of you for all that you have done and all that you do every day on behalf of the lowest income people in this country. So those of you who are attending Housing Day, I will be there also. Please enjoy. Those who are not attending Housing Day, we pray for safe travels back to your destinations. So again, on behalf of the National Low Income Housing Coalition, board, staff, members, allies, partners, I thank you for attending this conference this week. And if you are not a member of the National Low Income Housing Coalition, please join today. Join before you leave today. That's another charge. Join, join, join. Even if you are an organizational member, like with my organization, Georgia Act, we're an organizational member, but I'm also a personal member. The little boy that you see with me with the backpack, he is a member. Yes, he is. 5th grader, Clayton County Public Schools. So that's how important it is to each of us to invest in this work. So right now, you'll hear from the National Low Income Housing Coalition Public Policy Manager. Give it up for Kim Johnson.
Hello again, everyone. If you can believe it, I am not here to introduce Senator Warren several times or vamp or work on my Type 5. I was originally supposed to be conducting a fireside chat with Representative Jayapal that was planned for today. Unfortunately, the Congresswoman and 52 of her colleagues are out of town right now for the funeral of Representative Raul Grijalva of Arizona, who passed away on March 13th and was a champion for the needs of working class people in his own right. Never mind then. Well, instead, Representative Jayapal, along with Representatives Emmanuel Cleaver and Richie Torres, were kind enough to provide some recorded remarks. Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal first took office in 2016, representing Washington's 7th Congressional District and making history got Washington in the House, I see, as the first South Asian American woman elected to the U.S. House of Representatives. Congresswoman Jayapal stands out as a champion of affordable housing and homelessness policies that would provide the large-scale, long-term investments and policy changes required to end the nation's affordable housing and homelessness crisis. We'll also hear from Representative Emmanuel Cleaver, who is serving his 11th term in Congress, representing Missouri's 5th Congressional District. Representative Cleaver leads a distinguished career as an advocate for the needs of disinvested communities and for low-income people. He currently serves as the ranking member of the House Financial Services Subcommittee on Housing and Insurance, where he fights for investments in low-income and rural communities, and was the former chair of the Congressional Black Caucus. Finally, Representative Richie Torres was first elected to represent New York's 15th District in 2020. Raised in public housing, Representative Torres leans on his personal experiences to push for policies that ensure the long-term housing stability of those most at risk of eviction and homelessness. Before his election, Representative Torres made history at 25 as the youngest person ever elected to the New York City Council. And since then, he has elevated himself as a champion for the preservation of affordable housing and expansion of vital affordable housing and homelessness resources. So without further ado, we're going to play their videos.
Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal, and I'm honored to represent Washington's 7th Congressional District in the House of Representatives. Thank you so much to everyone at the National Low Income Housing Coalition for allowing me to just share a few words with you today as you gather for your 2025 Housing Policy Forum. I am really grateful to have all of you as partners in the fight to push forward policy that gives low-income families what they deserve: the opportunity to live in quality homes in affordable and accessible communities. But as you all know better than anyone, these policies are currently under attack. The Trump administration has already taken a hatchet to many of the policies we try to champion and protect. Last month, they began terminating grants to organizations that enforce the Fair Housing Act. These groups take complaints, investigate, and litigate housing discrimination cases for Americans across the country. And Trump is ripping away that funding. In 2023, 34,000 fair housing complaints were filed, and 75% of these were processed by private nonprofits. This loss of funding means more housing discrimination and less oversight because of Donald Trump and his cuts. And who's going to be hurt the most? Seniors, people with disabilities, and minority communities. The Trump administration also just announced that they're halting a $1 billion program that helps preserve affordable housing, threatening projects that keep tens of thousands of units livable for low-income Americans. The Green and Resilient Retrofit Program works to preserve units that are aging and in need of urgent repair. It has awarded money to projects that would upgrade at least 25,000 affordable units across the country. And without that critical funding, this upkeep is not going to happen, and these homes will become unlivable, yanking apartments out from under poor Americans. If your low-income apartment has a leaky roof, a broken heating or cooling system, old insulation, or broken windows, the owner of your affordable housing unit can apply for a grant or a loan through this program to finance a fix. Without the program, they just may not be able to make those necessary repairs. It's also critically important to think about how private equity is destroying affordable housing, buying up housing and driving up rental prices through collusion on sites like RealPage. Under the Biden administration Department of Justice and Lena Khan's FTC, we saw some of these actions begin to be challenged in court. We will have to see whether the Trump administration continues these or whether they once again side with private equity and the billionaires. This is just a couple of examples of how the Trump administration is undermining the effort to protect and expand low-income housing and to make sure that we're fighting back against housing discrimination. It is so important that we share our outrage to these policies and cuts, that we fight back, and that we push for true progress. Because the American people are on our side. Nearly 2/3 of voters say they're concerned about the country's housing crisis and that the federal government should do more, not less, to address the cost of housing. And that's why I'm so proud to lead the Housing is a Human Right Act in Congress. It's transformative legislation that authorizes more than $300 billion for crucial housing infrastructure while reducing homelessness across America. The solution to our housing crisis is investing in housing infrastructure and supportive services and programs for vulnerable people. As we fight for this legislation and other progress, we're also going to have to focus on defending vital programs at HUD from Trump's cuts. I know that the spending bill that Republicans passed earlier this month underfunded some critical HUD programs, like their homelessness assistance program and the Community Development Fund. I'm not going to sugarcoat this. These are really difficult times, and this administration is doing everything it can to rip away the federal programs that millions of Americans rely on. But with your help and the assistance of countless advocates across the country, we will fight back. We will make our voices heard, and we will stand up for vulnerable communities. So thank you for everything that you are doing. It's incredibly important work, and I'm so proud to be fighting right alongside you in Congress every step of the way.
Hello, I'm Emmanuel Cleaver. I represent proudly Missouri's 5th Congressional District, which is home to, as most of you may know, the world champion Kansas City Chiefs. Okay, so it was a couple of years ago. But we still have world famous barbecue in Kansas City. And I'm honored to be joining you today, the National Low Income Housing Coalition, and interim president and CEO Renee Willis. I'm doing this virtually for the annual Housing Policy Forum here in Washington, D.C. For more than 50 years, the National Low Income Housing Coalition has led the fight to ensure that people with the lowest incomes have access to housing that's safe and decent. It is an issue very, very near and dear to me. I was born in the segregated South to a family that lived in a shack without electricity or indoor running water. Eventually, through the grace of God Almighty and the hard work of my father, our family was able to move into public housing. I still remember my very first night in public housing and the excitement I had in flipping on and off the light switch and repeatedly flushing the toilet. Man, that was a big night for me. Having access to public housing was dignifying and transformative for me and my family. It's why I joined the National Low Income Housing Coalition and my colleagues, Congressman Lynch, Congressman Meeks, and Congressman Torres, in announcing the launching of the Congressional Public Housing Caucus this past month. After many years of hard work and multiple jobs, my dad moved our family out of public housing and into our own home. Through many ways in which we could create a better feeling about ourselves and our family, my father worked hard to get this home moved from a white neighborhood to the neighborhood where African Americans could live. And man, owning that house created a greater sense of somebodyness for the Cleaver family. And actually, my father began the process then of building generational wealth. There's simply no issue more important to me than the fight for fair and affordable housing. I also serve as the ranking member of the House Financial Services Subcommittee on Housing and Insurance under the strong leadership of Ranking Member Maxine Waters of California. At this time in history, the fight for fair housing and affordable housing is all hands on deck and occurring in all fronts. As working class families struggle to pay their rent and mortgages and homelessness increasing, President Trump has joined in with his co-president Elon Musk in taking deliberate actions to make this housing crisis, even worse. This administration has dismantled fair housing civil rights protections, including the affirmatively furthering fair housing rule, making it easier to force people onto the streets. They've also implemented tariffs that will cripple efforts to increase housing supply. And they've ordered the illegal firing of the staff at the Department of Housing and Urban Development. That's ridiculous. In fact, it is reported that the Trump administration and HUD Secretary Scott Turner are attempting to fire roughly 1/2 of all the employees at that department. The consequences of this action will be devastating. HUD is already seeing a drastic reduction in its capacity to execute its mission or respond to crises. And housing partners are already seeing increased or indefinite delays in receiving funding, and more will lose support. Many will not make it, and American families will pay the price. Please know that I and like-minded members of the House and Senate will continue to put forward legislation that will, if approved, solve the nation's fair and affordable housing crisis, such as the American Housing and Economic Mobility Act that I've introduced with my colleagues, Senator Elizabeth Warren and Senator Raphael Warnock. We will continue to challenge the administration's reckless destruction in demonstrations, hearings, communication channels with our Republican colleagues, and anywhere else. We will need each of the 3 C's, Congress, the courts, and the community, and I stand with those who are fighting and filing suits and organizing and advocating and challenging illegal and short-sighted actions. Thank you again for allowing me to join you today, and thank you to the National Low Income Housing Coalition for this important convening. I look forward to our continued partnership in the weeks and months ahead. I'm Emmanuel Cleaver, and thank you for inviting me.
Hello, I'm Congressman Richie Torres, and I have the honor of representing New York 15 in the Bronx, and I am one of the co-founders of the Public Housing Caucus. The single greatest challenge confronting America is the affordability crisis. The success of government is measured by an answer to a simple question. Are we making America work for working people? Are we making America affordable to all Americans? The answer is emphatically no. We are fundamentally failing working people who urgently need affordable housing. America's facing the deepest affordability crisis since the Great Depression. America has a housing deficit of 7.3 million units for the lowest income families. In a nation of 3,000 counties, there's not a single county where an essential worker earning minimum wage can afford a two-bedroom apartment. And the New York City Housing Authority, which is the greatest safety net of deeply affordable housing in the United States, has a capital need of $80 billion and counting. Given these challenges, it is more urgent than ever that members of Congress partner with the National Low-Income Housing Coalition to confront the root causes of the affordability crisis. In the short term, we must defend our safety net of affordable housing from the existential threat of a Donald Trump presidency. But in the long run, we must transform affordable housing from a privilege to a right. I'm a strong supporter of housing vouchers for all, which would ensure that every family struggling with homelessness or housing insecurity has access to a voucher which guarantees you pay no more than 30% of your income toward your rent. Universalizing access to housing vouchers, treating housing not as a privilege, but as a right, would radically reduce homelessness and housing insecurity in America. Congress must affirm a simple truth, that the solution to homelessness is a home. We need to create enough homes to meet the demand for affordable housing, and we have to ensure that the homes that we do create are affordable to the lowest income families. We must make America affordable to the most essential and the most vulnerable among us, in the Bronx and elsewhere in the United States. And toward that end, I have no greater partner than the National Low-Income Housing Coalition.
So thanks, of course, to our wonderful members of Congress who sent those videos. And to close out, I wanted to echo Dr. Bamby's remarks and thank everyone so much for being here. We do not take for granted your attendance. We know you all have busy lives, so taking time to come to DC, for some all the way from Hawaii, also giving up the weather in Hawaii to come here, it's its own sacrifice, to join us for the last few days really does mean everything. We cannot do this work without you all, so thank you for your work, your partnership, and your presence. These are hard, unrelenting, and frankly, scary times. We are witnessing a concentrated, purposeful attempt to decimate HUD and its programs, along with the other vital federal programs that are crucial to the well-being of those who are paid the lowest wages. Those leading this charge want us to get overwhelmed and tired, to stop showing up, to stop defending our friends and neighbors so that they can continue the violent work of dividing us, pitting us against one another to convince us our differences are insurmountable and that their efforts are justified. But we cannot let them. Our work can be challenging and exhausting and frustrating and heartbreaking, but damn it, what we do matters. It matters that we show up for each other, that we care enough about our neighbors, our families, our communities, and ourselves to keep showing up and keep demanding better. Because we deserve better. We deserve better than infighting and culture war nonsense that only serves to keep us divided. We deserve better than leaders who want to put the wants of the rich over the needs of the people. One of the most extraordinary things about this conference is the opportunity to bring advocates together and to help people realize that they are not alone in this fight. Advocates all around the country are willing and able to work together in the fight for housing justice, and that is power. Despite everything, the obstacles, the barriers, the endless barrage of draining news updates, everyone in this room made the choice to keep showing up, to keep organizing, to keep fighting, and to keep up this vital work. Because we know that it matters. We know that diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility make us stronger, not weaker. We know that housing is a human right, and we know that together we are a movement. From this dark, unrelenting moment, we will rise to the occasion and stand up to fight to build the world that we want to live in, a world where everyone has a safe, quality, affordable, and accessible place to call home. This is our moment. We cannot shy away from these challenges, and we must continue to lean on each other for support, because no one accomplishes anything alone, but together we can accomplish anything. I am so proud to be in this fight alongside you all. Thank you for being here. Thank you for taking the time. And with that, I am absolutely delighted to introduce my wonderful colleague, Brooke Shipperite, Director of Field Organizing, to the stage. Thank you.
Well said. That's a tough act to follow. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Brooke Shipwright, and I'm Director of Field Organizing here at the National Low Income Housing Coalition. And I can't say any of that any better than my wonderful colleague, Kim Johnson, and just echo every word of it. I'm really grateful to be here in community with you. I'm thrilled to introduce our closing panel. 2 years ago, NLHC received a transformative investment that led to the creation of a brand new initiative called Generation Housing Justice, a pilot program to engage young advocates ages 18 to 24 in the affordable housing movement. Let me tell you, I have been blown away by the excitement around this project. We received 200 applications for just 20 spots available, and this was a brand new thing no one had ever heard about before. These fellows are an incredible group of people, many with lived experience of homelessness or housing instability themselves, already driving change in their communities back home all over the country. Their passion and dedication embody the future of this movement. And with that, it is my pleasure to turn it over to my wonderful colleagues, Tia and Sasha, who lead our first cohort of Generation Housing Justice Fellows. And I'll invite the fellows to come up to the stage as well. And we have many more scattered throughout the room. They're all here with us today. So really welcome all of them.
Good afternoon, everyone. How's everybody feeling? Good. So I'm really excited. I'm Tia Turner. I'm one of the housing advocacy organizers here at NLIHC. And I'm excited to be here with our Generation Housing Justice Fellows. Today, we're going to have a conversation about intergenerational housing justice. Housing justice isn't just a moment, but it's a movement that has been shaped by generations before us, and it'll continue to be shaped for generations after us. And so today, we're going to have a conversation with our Generation Housing Justice Fellows as we are excited here at NLIHC to allow them to come into the fold so that they can bring new and fresh perspectives that they have in the work that they're doing back home. And so I'm going to pass the torch over to our field intern, Sasha. We also have, let me introduce them really quick. We have Keyshawn Wade coming from Michigan. We have Sarah Price, and then we also have Phoenix Berry. And so thank you all. And then I just want you all to just receive everything that they're going to say today and with opening ears. And so you got it, Sasha.
All righty. Hi, everybody. Like Tia said, my name is Sasha Legagner, and I've been the field intern at NLIHC since September 2024. This project means so much to me, and I'm so happy to be able to create this space right now as part of our forum and just talk a little bit with our fellows. So are you ready for it? Alrighty. So first, we want to hear a bit about you guys. So tell us your name, the state you're from, and what brought you to housing justice. And we're going to start with Phoenix.
Okay, hi everyone. My name is Phoenix. I'm coming all the way from Kentucky. My pronouns are they, them. I feel like I have a lot of living experience. I don't like to say lived because I feel like that gives the connotation of like I've overcome these systemic struggles. I'm still going through them, so I like to say I have living experience.
My name is Sarah Price. I use she, her pronouns. I'm called Wisconsin and Indiana both home. And did we answer that? Yeah, sorry. I think what got me into this work is just that I realized how much it intersects with so many other systems and issues that I care about. It just felt like the most important thing I could be doing.
Hello, my name is Keyshawn Wade. I'm coming from Flint, Michigan. I use he, him, his pronouns, and I'm a first-generation low-income student at Cornell University, where I am a senior, and I actually study urban and regional planning. I study urban and regional planning with the concentration in inequality in urban life, as well as real estate, housing, and urban economics. And what got me into that, what got me into this, housing advocacy, is really growing up in Flint and living through like housing insecurity, as well as some political divides and different political climates. So yeah, really, really passionate about housing.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. And as you guys can see, we have a very diverse panel of different backgrounds and perspectives, and it's allowed our discussions to be so much more flourishing in our sessions. So our next question is, many young people care about social justice, but may not see housing as a key issue. What would you say to someone your age about why housing justice matters? Phoenix.
I feel like I would say, I would start off with like the context of like the future that they sold to us was a lie. I feel like growing up all through school, they were like, you go to college, you get your degree, then you're basically guaranteed a house. That's literally bullshit. So like, I feel like that's something like just knowing that context, just know that we have to like stop this cycle of like false starts and false hopes. We have to know that it's more than us. Like we have to set the example and we have to be the ones to lead the change and to like actually dismantle this system. Because again, like continuing the cycles of like colonization and, you know, the other things that are keeping us oppressed and exploited is just pretty redundant.
I would say that, like I said in my introduction, housing touches so many issues. So no matter what someone's primary policy issue is, there's a connection to housing. So if you're really passionate about foster care reform, think about how many families could be safely reunified if the parents had access to affordable housing. For those who care about criminal justice reform, housing is a huge barrier people face amongst reentry, and that really plays into the cycle of incarceration, especially when we're talking about criminalization of homelessness and the barriers to housing for people with criminal justice involvement. I could talk about that for a long time. But there are just so many systems. Of course, I don't have to tell you all how housing plays into historic and current racial discrimination and inequity. So I think whatever the issue is that you really care about, housing is an integral part of that. So that would be what I'd want to tell them.
Yeah, and I would just and I would just also echo what Sarah is saying, because I think housing is one of the most important battlefields that we're fighting on right now. And I think for social justice, it is such an interconnected issue. If you consider yourself a feminist, the women and femme people who are victims and survivors of domestic violence, they need housing. So that's your fight. And as we continue to think about issues, we can't think about them as single issues. They're multi-connected issues. They're interconnected in all different ways. And you have to start at the foundation. And I can't remember what the presenter's name was, but we're on a cracked foundation, and we got to start with the foundation and deal with all the issues that stem from that foundation.
Absolutely. And just as a follow-up to that, I remember yesterday, Ms. Rebecca in our State and Child Partner Breakfast said that we need to teach the next generation on the battleground. So you saying battlefield just reminded me of that, and the time to start is now. So going into our individual questions, we're going to first start with Phoenix. So advocacy is often driven by those with lived experiences. What role does lived experience play in your approach to housing justice?
I feel like it makes it way more personal. I feel like I meet a lot of people who are, you know, in any type of justice work, and it's just like a paycheck for them. I don't have the option or the luxury to just like close my eyes or turn off my phone or turn off my TV and not have to worry about housing justice. I could have an eviction notice within like the next week. I actually just fought an eviction like a month or two ago. So I don't have the luxury of like not thinking about it. It's something that I'm advocating for like every day. I'm making sure that my neighbors have the resources that they need to get rental assistance, that they know their tenant rights and things like that. I also feel like it really fires me up too, and it makes the advocacy work feel way more fulfilling just because of how close it is and how personal it is. Like I can actively see like the people like around me, my community, my neighbors, like how their faces will just light up anytime I'm talking about like housing insecurity, because they're like, hey, someone else is going through it, so it's not just me.
Great answer. Our next question is for Sarah. Many organizations struggle with making space for young leaders. What are some concrete ways older generations can create more opportunities and meaningful roles for young people in housing advocacy?
Thank you for asking this question. I especially want to focus on the aspect of creating meaningful roles. There are two parts in this. I think one, sometimes we see positions that are token positions, and it is not meaningful representation if you have someone at the table but are not accepting or implementing their feedback. And the second part is that if we are creating opportunities for leadership for young people or for people with lived experience without providing the support for them to be successful in those roles, we're not setting them up for success. So something in my organization, I work with young adults or youth 14 to 24, and one of my colleagues is really working on getting some of our young adults who are interested in advocacy into those roles and essentially demystifying advocacy, because some of it's simple, but it's intimidating and it's not intuitive. And so figuring out, just showing them, how do you get information about what legislation is going on right now, not through the news, but directly through the legislature website? How do you interpret those policies and what their actual effect would be? Where do you see where they are in the process and how to meet with legislators or sign up to speak at a hearing? Going with them in person and sitting with them and preparing how they're going to speak, also preparing that sometimes legislators are not a friendly audience, and preparing them for that, especially people with lived experience where that can be really traumatic to be in potentially a hostile situation. And so providing that support and that preparation every step of the way, so that we're not only empowering young people to step into these roles, but really giving them the support to thrive in them.
Important and something for us to all remember tomorrow, Capitol Hill Day. All right, so our next question is for Keyshawn. So as part of the fellowship, all fellows have to do a final project on a topic of their choice. So Keyshawn, can you tell us about your project and maybe how your background influenced why you chose that project?
I sure can tell you that. So I feel like I have a very, very deep passion for the community of Flint, and everything that I have done has been with the goal of returning back to do that work. So I went to Cornell with the mission of, like a personal mission for myself, to learn and develop tools that I could apply at home. And a part of that skill set, I feel, is applying tools and examples of things that people have done elsewhere and bringing that to Flint. So I've been super inspired about hearing about tenant and housing unions here. And Flint actually does not have a tenant union or a housing union. So I want to go back and start that. And I also want to tie that directly to community development, so that people, have a say in what is built and what is rehabilitated in their community. I think often in community development in Flint, it feels a little bit like there are forces that they have no control over that are telling them what is going to happen versus engaging with them to participate in what is going to happen, or find a democratic approach to including them in what's going to happen in decision-making processes. And I think that's extremely important, especially as we're in this political climate. No one person or small group should have control over a larger group. And we are a democratic nation, collection of communities, and every aspect of our community should be democratic, including how resources are distributed and how, no one should be able to make a decision about when maintenance happens to your home. No one should be able to make a decision about whether they're going to sell your home from up underneath you and use it as a tool to make profit. Yeah.
So much for that. Alrighty, so our next two questions are for all the fellows to answer. And our first one is, what has been the most surprising or transformative part of your journey in the Generation Housing Justice Fellowship? Phoenix?
I would say the most surprising and transformative part is meeting people that are around my age that have so much passion and such well-versed experts on housing, and it's just really inspiring. I feel like before I joined, I kind of had a little bit of a taffy feeling about housing and advocacy. I think I was approaching a little bit of a burnout, kind of always being put on a pedestal as a young person. So being with other young people who are hey, we've experienced that too, or this is something that we're, experiencing. It's just really exciting.
Yeah, to sort of echo that, I think I realized as I came here how much cynicism I had sort of built up. And being with such passionate advocates, the other fellows and tenant leaders, and being in a room of people with so much hope and tenacity, and to steal a phrase from Keyshawn, radical imagination, was so powerful. And I think hope can be really vulnerable. You don't get disappointed if you keep your expectations low. But also, if we're just asking for scraps of housing justice, we're never going to get any more than that.
Yeah, I also carry the sentiment of finding myself super energized by my cohort. I think I have definitely found like-minded peers and individuals that are going to probably become a support system. And I'm also really super inspired and grateful by that, from the actions of the coalition and taking on a measure to invest in the next generation, and not invest in us in a tokenist way. We're actually being able to practice our own agency and develop our own skills that will lead to professional development and just personal expertise building, I think. So I'm really excited for this opportunity, yeah.
Alrighty, so our last question for all of you is, for those in the audience who want to support and uplift young housing advocates, what's one tangible action they can take when they leave this room? Starting with Phoenix.
When I first got this question, I had so many thoughts. So I'm going to kind of try to condense it into one thing. And I think that is be intentional. And what I mean by that is take more than just theory and talking about theory and actually put it into practice. If you are fed up with the systems that we are currently in, instead of just talking about it and theorizing about how bad the systems are, actually do community mutual aid, actually reach out to people, actually invest in one another. If you know young people that are around you that are struggling to, afford their rent, afford, their utilities, afford to eat, pour into them. Because a lot of us don't have the chances to be able to have a savings account or being able to have a high-paying job. A lot of these things, they want you to have 20, 40 years of experience. They want me to start working as soon as I'm in the womb, which is not possible. So help us, but also keep in mind too that by helping us, you're also helping the people around you. I've been reading The Service Berry by, I think, Robin Wells or Renee Wells, but it talks about like the gift economy, and something that they talked about there is like when you give, you're not only giving to that person, you are creating this cycle of giving, so that person is also giving instead of something which is transactional, which is like here's $4 for like a meal or something. So yeah.
Great response. I also, when asked this question, was thinking about how growing up, I was often told, like, your generation is going to fix everything. Being told that at 6 years old is a little overwhelming. So I think, and then at the same time, I've had conversations with other young people, especially people from different backgrounds, who weren't told that. They weren't told that they could be leaders and change makers. So I think it's a both and. Yes, empower young people to reach their fullest potential, and also maybe shift from thinking about it as passing the baton to inviting us to join the coalition. Because we're not passing this work on from one generation to the next, we're joining in the efforts, and I think thinking of it as a partnership. Yeah.
So I have also thought about this question a lot. I have two things. I think first is to just be mindful of how much space you take up. Especially when you're in an intergenerational space. I think from my experience, I have often felt dismissed because when I come to a table, I'm bringing very non-traditional ways of doing things because I'm fed up with this current system and I want to get to the root of the problem. But often we're not getting to the root of the problem. The traditional way of doing business is to palliate those with money, with those with capital, and I think we have to use our collective agency to move away from that as much as possible and develop ideas and programming that move beyond the traditional way of doing business. So that's my first thing is just don't shut anyone down. Just remember when you're in a space to just be mindful, not to overtalk, not to overshare. And that's my first piece. My second piece is kind of an extension of not shutting anyone down and just asking young people, asking innovators, asking change makers, how can I support your vision for innovation? How can I help you foster a modicum of agency to bring change? I think asking people what they need, asking people what their desires are, is how you get to that point so that we can bring about change. And I think that requires a lot of bravery and a lot of willingness, but I think we are capable. And it's just a matter of will. Yeah.
Can we just want to say, just thank you all for sharing your perspectives. We are running close to time here, but we just want to say that if you want to get connected with NLIHC. We're hoping in the future that we can create another opportunity as this. I would like briefly for our other generation housing justice students to just wave your hand in the audience so people can see you. And so, thank you. And so can we give our panelists one more round of applause? Thank you all so much for sharing your perspectives. I hope you all have enjoyed this panel. I think we have time for one question, just one question, and I'll have Sasha to ask the question really quickly.
Alrighty, so I'm just going to ask this question based off what you said, Sarah, about how being coalition with other generations. So for all of you to answer really quickly, because we're running short on time, what have you learned from other generations about this work?
I think I've learned everything from other generations. I guess, and also, like I mentioned, I work with young adults, so I guess I've learned a lot from my generation as well. But I guess when I think about the mentors I have in this work, they have really emphasized to me self-determination for people that we work with and dignity. I guess knowing that I bring in my own biases and listening to the people that I work with, and if I have an idea of like this is the best next step for them and they have a different idea, it's their life and it's their decision. And so yeah, letting those voices lead.
Phoenix?
What was the question again? I'm sorry.
What have you learned from other generations about this work?
I feel like I've learned, kind of like what Sarah said, a little bit of everything. I feel like from generations older than me, I've kind of been learning more about like how to get my foot in the door and some like new strategies and like tactical ways of like thinking and like how to navigate the advocacy world, especially as like a young Black queer person. And from the younger generation, I've learned how to make sure that I'm consistently learning and staying up to date with things like technology, and to also to like continue to have hope, because like when I die, like they're gonna be the ones like in this world leading things. So I want to make sure that it's better for them. So
I think the thing that I have learned is not to take no as an answer from the older generation. I have watched in my community in Flint some community elders really fight on the battlegrounds up into this day, and I am so inspired by that. So that's one thing. And then from the younger generations, I have learned the ideal of the radical imagination. If we can't imagine a better world, then the world has really messed us over, I'll say. And just keeping that alive is just so important.
Well, thank you all so much, and thank you all for your patience. Thank you, thank you.
Let's keep it going, and one more time for Generation Housing Justice. Well, we are now so pleased to introduce our next speaker. Senator Lisa Blunt Rochester made history last year when she was elected to serve as Delaware's first Black United States Senator. Let's give it up right there for that. And the state's first woman senator. That's right, let's go. Before her historic election, the senator served 4 terms as Delaware's sole representative in the U.S. House of Representatives, again making history as the first Black woman to represent Delaware in the chamber. During her time in the House, then Representative Blunt Rochester championed common sense solutions to the nation's affordable housing crisis, including policies to remove unnecessary regulations and increase the supply of affordable housing, prevent evictions, and protect people from housing discrimination. She is a dedicated champion of policies that help provide people with the lowest incomes with the resources that they need to thrive. And we cannot wait to see how she builds on her successes in the Senate. And even as she joined us just moments ago to watch the Generation Housing Justice panel, I am pleased to present and ask you to join and welcoming. See, I'm anxious to just call her on. My sorority sister, Senator Lisa Blunt Rochester.
Wow. Well, first of all, thank you for that beautiful introduction. Look, I already hear some of the sorors in the house here, but I do want to say thank you for that introduction to your interim CEO, Renee Willis, to Dr. Bambi Hayes Brown, the board chair, the members of the board, the students, everyone who is in this room under the sound of my voice. I am so honored and humbled to be with you today. Representing the state of Delaware. Is there anybody from Delaware here? Yes, okay, Delaware. Let's show Delaware a little bit of love. Y'all can show my Delaware a little bit of love. And I will tell you, I have a long written speech here, but I was so blown away by this generation of young leaders in front of me. And I came early so I could hear you. I was listening in the green room to what they had to say. I was listening to your reactions, and there was a lot of synergy, a lot of things that I felt a kindred spirit with you. And maybe because when I was young, I was a kid born in the 60s, and it was a time of civil rights. It was a time of Black power. It was a time of the women's movement, ecology. We were saying, give a hoot, don't pollute back then. And I remember I always felt that people did not respect young people, didn't respect me. And especially coming to this position, why it is so important. If you leave here with nothing else, one of the things that was said was about doing something and doing it even if you're afraid. I remember being young. I remember running for office and having it be told to me that a Black woman has never done this before. A woman has never done this before. But because of what was the foundation, that propelled me every step of the way. And so I just want to start off by acknowledging all of, not only the young people in the room, but some of us with a little gray and salt and pepper in our hair too. I want to acknowledge each and every one of you for being here on the battlefield and in this fight for justice. I love the expertise here. I love the advocacy here. I love the snaps here. I love the claps here. And something that really stood out when I heard you speak was this idea of radical imagination. And so as I think about my role here today, I'm proud that my team and I, Sophie on my team, who is way younger than I am, and I listen to her every day, I'm glad that we are able to not just do the work in the United States House of Representatives, where we worked on legislation to deal with the housing crisis we face, but we are also now doing it in the United States Senate as one of 100. And at this moment, this is a moment of urgency. This is an emergency. And so as this new administration puts on full display, not hiding it, not sugarcoating it, not keeping the quiet part unsaid, we've got to be ready. We've got to be prepared, and we've got to do the work. And so we're watching firings and freezes. We're watching agencies be broken down so that people can then say the agency is broken. We're witnessing all of this in real time. And if DOJ and the president have their way, half the staff from HUD will be removed. Programs will be defunded. Vouchers will be gone away, eliminated. And it's all while we have the biggest housing crisis that we've ever seen. I'm not going to go through the statistics because you know the statistics. Many of you live the statistics. Many of you work with families and individuals. But the bottom line is that in this environment, those who have the least means have the hardest time finding housing. But you know it's bad when even rich people can't find housing. That's what's happening right now. That's how bad things are. And so there are also these myths out there about who, now they want to put work requirements on it. Well, the reality is most of the people in public housing are already working 2 jobs, sometimes 3 jobs. So we have to bust the myths as well. And the bottom line is things won't get better unless we do the work. In Delaware, we've got about 14,000 units, rental units, that we don't have for the lowest income residents, but 20,000 even for the highest income residents. And what I noticed in my work and in my life is that there is an intersectionality between these different issues. You can't have a kid go to school and be ready when they are living in a car. You can't expect somebody to have great health outcomes when they're living in a place that has lead paint. You can't expect somebody to come be a returning citizen to our community and then have a background check stop them from getting housing. That's why I have the clean slate bill that I introduced in the House and now we will introduce in the Senate. These things are connected to each other. Environmental justice is connected to this. Health disparities are connected, and people having good paying jobs. I was the Secretary of Labor in Delaware. I said if I had another middle name, it'd be Lisa Blunt Jobs Rochester. Because people need good paying jobs. And right now, the wages aren't keeping up with the rent. And so back to the word of dignity. That is also what this is about. It is about dignity and everyone having the opportunity to realize not just their dreams, but to have a real reality. Everybody in here has a story. There's a reason why each of you is in this room. For me, part of it is the work that I'm doing in Congress, but part of it goes back to me as a kid. I thought back on this. I was born in Philadelphia, even though I was raised in Delaware. And when I was born, the first home I lived in was my mother's house, my grandmother's house. The second place I lived was my dad's mother's house. Then my dad got an apartment in Philadelphia. Then we moved into a home that was public housing. We lived in the Champlos projects in Philadelphia. We moved from there to an apartment in Delaware. And it was around the time that I turned 10 years old. So that is my grandmother's house, an apartment, public housing, and then finally, my parents were able to get a home. My dad was the first to graduate from high school in his family, first to graduate from college. And I remember when we were doing the Farm Bill, I had to tell those Congress people that I know what you might think food stamps looks like, but my dad was able to raise 3 girls. One is an engineer today, one is a professor today, and now one is a congresswoman and a senator. So don't tell me what we're not capable of when we have the opportunity. And so, to put it simply, for us to be the richest country in the world, this is unacceptable. This is unacceptable. And I'm glad that you've had other members that have come so that you can see this is a conversation that's happening across the Capitol now. This is something, whether you are in San Francisco or Selma, you're feeling it. Whether you are in the heartland or Harlem, you're feeling it. Bottom line is, when the beginning of the month comes and it's time for that paycheck, they don't ask you, are you a Republican? Are you a Democrat? No, they say, where's my money? I'm not going to say what Rihanna would have said, but you know what I mean. So, as you're doing your work here on Capitol Hill, I want you to know that we already have started. Sophie, we're already working on a comprehensive bill to increase affordable housing opportunities in this country. We're working on that right now. We're talking even to our Republican colleagues about this bill so that we can make a difference. But I know you came here to storm the Hill. So I wanted to leave you with a couple pieces of advice. You heard some good ones up here already. I call them the 4 no's, okay? These are the 4 no's. The first one is know the member and the staff. If you're going into a congressman's office or a senator's office, know a little bit about them. Know why they care. The fact that I lived in public housing means you already have an in when I walk in the door. Know the member, but more importantly, know the staff, know Sophie. I'm doing 1,000 different things. Sophie is focused, laser on your issue. So make sure that you might be there with the senator or the congressman, but you find out who this staff person is, because I used to be the staff. I know where the power is. That's number 1. Know the member, know the staff. Number 2, know your stuff. a lot of times people will walk in and it's like they might be a little intimidated because of who that person is. You're the expert at what you do and what you know. We're not. So walk in with that confidence and know that you already know your stuff. The third know your ask. Why are you there? Don't just walk in and say, oh my God, it's so good to meet you, Bernie. Know your stuff and know your ask. What do you want? People have walked out of my office and forgot to ask me what they came for. Know your ask. And the last no, which you already heard, is don't take no for an answer. Do not take no for an answer. Now, your answer may come in different forms. Maybe you went in for legislation and they said, well, we can't do it that way right now, but maybe we can do an appropriation and find some money. It may be that they say we can help you change a policy. It might not be in the form that you think, but build the relationship. Don't take no for an answer. It might not be today, but I'm coming back tomorrow. Don't take no for an answer. I will leave you with this. I love the African proverb that sticks in a bundle are unbreakable, because I think a lot of times when we try to do it, young people are over here. Some of us more seasoned are over here. Those who are advocates for housing are here, or those who are advocates for clean slate are over here. You might be able to break us, but when we come together, we are unbreakable, unbreakable. And so I did not plan to do this, and I know Sean and my team is like, what is she about to do? But when I heard this dynamic panel before me, I thought back to a poem I wrote years ago called Don't Look. Because a lot of times when we look at stuff too hard, we get scared. That's how I felt even when I ran for office. I had never run for office in my life. I had just lost my husband from blood clots that went to his heart and lungs from playing basketball and rupturing his Achilles tendon. Love of my life. And that year after Charles died, I saw a dad in the supermarket with 3 kids put back grapes because they were $9. And I was like, I can do something. I can serve. I had never run. I had never even been in a debate. People were making fun of me on social media saying, she looks like a deer in the headlights. I was a deer in the headlights. I was scared. But I kept going. And maybe that's the thing. It's just keep swimming. Just keep swimming. So I want to end with this that I dedicate to all of you, but especially the students and the young people. And it's called Don't Look. Don't look at where I came from. Look at where I'm going. So I wasn't born with a silver spoon in my mouth and my people came from way down south. Don't look at where I came from. Look at where I'm going. I'm a black woman trying to get equal pay, 62 cents on a dollar. Lifting sick bodies, flipping burgers, waiting tables makes me want to holler. But don't look at where I came from. Look at where I'm going. Nourishing my growing babies, putting food on the table. I do what I have to because by God, I know I'm able. Filling my mind is a big part, but filling my spirit in particular and reaching out to positive people and getting rid of sick folks who are constantly tripping. Yeah, don't look at where I came from. Look at where I'm going. Like the song they sang in the 70s, I'm singing real loud. Don't get in my way, because ain't no stopping us now. So for the last time I'm telling, I don't mean to be prissy, but don't look at where I came from, because you just might miss me.
Thank you, Senator Lisa Blunt Jobs Rochester. Amazing, amazing. Again, my name is Renee Willis, Interim President and CEO of the National Low Income Housing Coalition. That was fabulous, phenomenal, and just in every ways beautiful. So glad that she was able to join us. And thank you to Generation Housing Justice. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you for your inspiration, because you all were dropping jewels all along the way, so thank you for that. And we're picking them up, so thank you for that. And so I just want to say again, good afternoon, everyone. I know that, everyone right now, it's been a long few days. I do recognize that. And I can see that some of you are eyeing that exit like it's a finish line in a marathon. But we are definitely almost there, so please stick with me for just a few more minutes. Before we close this portion of the policy forum, I want to take a moment to express my gratitude, my deepest gratitude to all who made this possible. And so first, I want to say to all of you in the room and all of you online, thank you. Thank you for being with us here for the last few days, for showing up bright and early, for staying late in the evening, and for bringing your passion and your dedication to this work. So thank you for that. And thank you for your presence and commitment in all that you do. I also want to acknowledge and express deep gratitude to our board of directors. And many of them are sitting on the front here. Thank you very much to our board, and thank you to our leadership. I want to express a heartfelt thank you to Dora Leon Gallo, who is our outgoing chair. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you for your dedication and your passion for this work. We really do thank you, Dora. And also thank you to our incoming and our current chair of the board. Thank you, Dr. Bambi Browns-Hayes. We thank you for your leadership, for your vision as well, and for also grooming the next generation in David and bringing him to these conferences and having him be a part of all of this. Thank you for that. And a special shout out to George Moses. I know he's not here today. He was here earlier in the week. But I ran into George Moses last year at Union Station, just a few short blocks from here. And as many of you know, George used to serve on the board of directors here at the Coalition, but he also knew, he had the privilege of knowing Cushing Dolbear, the founder of the Coalition. And when we ran into each other, he shared a very simple yet powerful suggestion with me at that time. And the suggestion was that we greet participants as they arrive to the forum. And he said, just as Cushing always did, and it was her way of thanking people for taking the time to be here at the forum. So we definitely implemented that change this year, and we will continue that tradition for years to come. So thank you, George, for your wisdom and for reminding us of the power of a warm welcome. So thank you for that, George. And also, too, I want to give a special thank you to the NLIHC staff, who's thank you, team, whose hard work and dedication made this forum possible. From the very beginning, you played a very crucial role in making this and bringing really, these sessions to fruition, carefully selecting the speakers, to shaping discussions, preparing the panelists for discussions, so that each of these sessions had that they were meaningful and that they were impactful. Your efforts brought these conversations to life, making, again, this forum not just an event, but a space for real dialogue, for learning, and for action. And beyond that, want to thank you for greeting attendees and bringing and offering us a friendly smile when it was most needed. So NLIHC staff, thank you so very much. And if you could please stand so that we can recognize you and say thank you. Yes. Go team. And then to the external affairs team of the coalition, it's really your work behind the scenes was impeccable, from the signage to the event app, and to ensuring that everyone was able to get where they needed to be, helped to make this event seamless. If you are on the external affairs team, please stand. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And then also to the hospitality staff who made our stay comfortable. Thank you. You ensured that we had a great experience throughout the event. And thank you to our AV team, to our security team, and to our photographer, Jacob. We thank you so very much. And last but certainly not least, I want to give a special thanks to Jen Butler, Vice President of External Affairs, and Adele Chenier, Director of Events. Their leadership, coordination, and attention to detail for this forum was immaculate and executed with excellence. This was truly a labor of love for them, and we want to thank them, and I want to thank them personally as well for all that they poured into making this event such a success. And we're not going to ask them to stand, but I'm going to ask you to stand and thank them and celebrate them. Thank you, Jim Butler. Thank you, Adele. So as we come to a close for this gathering, I want to leave you with this. Our work is far from over, right? And we heard that throughout this event. We are here because we believe in something bigger than ourselves, and we believe in a future where every person, every family, every child has a safe, stable, and accessible and affordable place to call home. We believe in a world where housing is not a privilege, but a fundamental right. We believe we must act, and we know that we must act. The forces working against us, disinvestment, displacement, policies designed to exclude and marginalize, all the things that we know are powerful. But let me tell you this, we are more powerful. If there's one thing that you know and that you leave with here today, is that we are more powerful. We are more powerful. Let's say that. Thank you for that. We are more powerful. One more time. We are more powerful. Absolutely. That was quite beautiful, y'all. And because we have something they don't, we have the voices of lived and living experience. We have tenant leaders, residents, community advocates who refuse to be silenced. We have the expertise of organizers, policy leaders, and housing champions who know how to fight and how to win. And we have each other. And when we stand together, when we hold to the vision and build the future, we cannot be stopped. So what comes next? When we leave here today, carry this movement with you. Speak up, organize, mobilize, demand better from your leaders, as I know you will do tomorrow at Capitol Hill Day. Stay connected, stay engaged, and don't let anyone tell you that change is impossible, because it's not. Because history has shown us otherwise. Every right we have, every victory we've won, every policy that has moved us closer to housing justice, it all started with people like you. Refusing to accept the world as it is and daring to imagine the world as it should be. So I ask you, as I asked yesterday, what future will we build together? Will we fight for stronger tenant protections? Will we push for policies that center racial and economic justice? Will we ensure that no one is left without a home? I know the answer, and I know you know the answer. And I know that we are the ones who will make it happen. So let's go forward with boldness, with clarity, with purpose, and let's hold the vision, let's build the future, and guess what? Let's win. Thank you very much, everyone.